Swimming like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank.
Welcome back to another episode of the Shrimp Tank. We come to you virtually from Seattle, the entire Pacific Northwest, and today we're going down I-5 all the way into Los Angeles. Listen, if you want to learn how to start, grow, or run a successful business, you are in the right place. This is where we say street smarts and book smarts collide. Hello again, everyone. I'm Dan Weedin, and I'm joined by my host, Monica Blackwood. Our guest today is Steve Sims. Now, do you know anyone that's worked with Sir Elton John or Elon Musk, sent people down to see the wreck of the Titanic on the seabed, or closed museums in Florence for a private dinner party, and then had Andrea Bocelli serenade them while they eat their pasta? Well, you do now, or you will in just a few minutes. Quoted as the real-life Wizard of Oz by Forbes and Entrepreneur magazine, Steve Sims is a best-selling author with Bluefishing, The Art of Making Things Happen, and more recently, Go for Stupid, The Art of Achieving Ridiculous Goals. He's a sought-after coach, top-rated speaker, and works with associations and groups like the Pentagon and at Harvard twice. He is co-founder with his son, Henry, of the leading community for creative disruptors called Sims Distillery. We'll talk about that. Steve is the host of the Art of Making Things Happen podcast. I highly recommend it. And I'm going to tell you, this could be a dynamic show today because we are literally going to get stupid. Welcome, Steve. We will be right with you. Everyone, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. We're on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Overcast, YouTube. You can say we are ubiquitous. Now, before we bring on Steve, hello, Monica. Happy holidays.
Hey, Dan, happy holidays. But before holidays, today actually happens to be my mom's 75th birthday. So, you got to set aside Christmas and New Year's and all of the other things to celebrate.
You should at least give her a happy birthday.
Right. Hey, Mom, happy birthday.
There you go. What other mom is getting a happy birthday from the #3 entrepreneur podcast on iHeartRadio? All right. Happy birthday, Mom. So, hey, I got kind of a fun plead the fifth style question for you.
Okay.
And I'm going to share mine first so you can have time to think. My question is, have you ever been at an event where because of a relationship with somebody else, they got you either into the event or the room, and you literally are saying, what am I doing here? Why am I here? How did this happen? It happened for me back in 1982. The University of Washington Huskies.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs. I was a Husky fan then. We're about to play the USC Trojans and Marcus Allen for the right to go to the Rose Bowl. My best friend, Lee Sherman, his uncle was the offensive coordinator of the Huskies. Not only did we get to go to the game, I got to be in the locker room after, a victorious locker room. I'll never forget, Monica. Eric Moran was a huge tackle for the Huskies. He threw his jersey in the direction of the laundry, hit me in the face with it, hit me right in the face and chest. I thought for a second, I wonder if I can walk out with this, but I didn't. I let it go. But I'm thinking, how am I here? How did this happen? Well, it was because of Lee. Do you have a similar story?
Oh my goodness. It's slightly different than yours. Actually, it's not slightly. It really is different than yours. On a professional level, I found myself one day, because at the time I worked for an architecture firm, and I am not an architect. I'm not trained as an architect. I have not a design bone in my body. But I worked for this architecture firm, and the team was going after a project to design a childcare facility, and the childcare facility actually they wanted it to be STEM focused, so that all these really young kids, 2-3 years old, would be exposed to STEM at the same time that they are doing their jobs, which is play, right? Because that's what kids do, is play, and hopefully adults too. But anyway, so for a long story, they decided that I would be a part of the team for this project and actually go to the interview, like the project interview. We didn't have the project yet. We were trying to win it, and they wanted to take me to the interview. It was so weird. Anyway, so there I was in the interview, and one of the panelists that was evaluating us started asking questions about budgeting and fundraising and all of that, and they were $200,000 shy of their ideal budget for this project. And the rest of my team members were like, oh, well, in order to accommodate that, we could, potentially take out this or change products here, whatever. And I grew up a little bit, and I stepped out and I said, you know what? $200,000 really isn't that much. And everybody on my team kind of looked at me. Here I am in this interview doing this. And the reason I bring this up is because I knew that I had a friend who knew David Allen. David Allen at the time, and he still is, I believe, is the main storyteller of an organization called McKinstry, which is a leading thought leader, innovator, and all of that sort of stuff here in the Seattle area. And so I was like, you know what? I want to put this organization who is talking about STEM education for really young kids, I want to put them in touch with David Allen. David Allen not only can give them ideas, but can also help them with fundraising opportunities. And so I took a bold move, and it paid off. We actually made that meeting happen, and it was good. So there we go.
That's a great story, Monica. And speaking of boldness, we're going to be talking a lot about being bold today with our guest. But I've got to, when we introduce our guest, Steve Sims. Steve, first of all, welcome to the show. I've got to bring you into it this way. I want to know how a bricklayer and bouncer from London ended up in front of the statue of David for that experience. Tell us that story.
Well, there's a story, and then there's the story. So, and the story will be the one you want to hear. So, but let me frame it up by giving you the how it actually happened. So, I had always believed, and you've actually been talking about it already, that you are the room you're in. If you're in a room full of broke-ass, wine bags, that's what you're going to be. If you're in a room full of positive go-getters, that's what you're going to be. So I always wanted to change the environment, and I wanted to be in the right room. I managed to get in front of some very, very affluent people throughout the planet. And I had one of these clients that said to me, hey, I want a dining experience in Florence to impress my mother-in-law and father-in-law. And I was like, well, okay, then. And this is your first lesson. As a business owner, this is the first lesson. Never complete a transaction. And that means never give the client what they ask for. Give them what they need and desire. So, I was challenged with, I want a dining experience. Well, I could have got you a great table at a fine restaurant, called up, slipped the chef a couple of grand, and they would have come out to the table and gone, oh, it's good to see. And that would have been crap. So we wanted to see how we could make it better. So the thing that I've always done from a young age, and you actually mentioned it earlier, I've always gone for stupid. Now, if you go for the impossible, lesson number 2, and there's going to be a ton of nuggets in this. If you go for the impossible, you're going to become restrictive and you're going to become aggressive. Let's go for the impossible. Let's make the impossible possible. And you become very gritty. If you actually gamify it and say, hey, how can we make this request stupid? How can we make it ridiculous? You become a 4-year-old child. Now, you want to stop fighting, but you never want to stop playing. So we always gamify what we had. This client wanted the meal. All right, how can we make this ridiculous? What's the most ridiculous thing we can do with this request? Well, let's not put it in a restaurant. Let's put it in the most iconic environment of Florence that's nowhere else in the planet. Now, there's cathedrals, there's art galleries, there's museums, but there's no David. And Michelangelo's David is the most iconic statue in the planet. I know, let's see if we can set up the dining experience at the feet of Michelangelo's David at 9 o'clock at night. Take over the entire museum, set up a table of 6, have a string quartet and a piano, and that's where you'll have dinner in front of the most iconic. So we went forward to see if we could pull this off. We did. And then, like all entrepreneurs, when you actually pull off something wonderful, or your business is doing well, or your marketing's going great, what do all entrepreneurs do? We find a way how we can screw it up because we're constantly pushing ourselves. So I went, okay, then. I've now got the museum. They've agreed to it. The chef, trying to find a good chef in Tuscany, it's like trying to find a Starbucks in Seattle. They're just there, So that wasn't a problem. But now I'm like, well, okay, what do I do now? I had literally a day and a half before this experience, and I'm sitting there in Florence going, how can I make this better? Now, again, you are the combination of the people you know, and over 25, 30 years, I know some quite powerful people. I reached out to Andrea Bocelli, the most famous maestro in the planet and the most famous singer in Italy. And I said, hey, how would you like to be part of this future story? How would you like to be part of this trigger, this memory, this experience? Now, you're going to have to pay, but never lead with the money. It's like you being surprised you bought a car and you got to fill it up with gas. It's just ridiculous, So I knew I had to pay. But first of all, I wanted to get the commitment. Far too many people lead with the price or the cost. That's an idiot's choice. So I led with the commitment. I got the commitment. And lo and behold, the client turned up, had an amazing meal at the feet of Michelangelo's David. And then as soon as he hit his main course, I walk in and I said, excuse me, I have a local singer that would like to entertain you while you eat your main courses. Can I bring him in, please? They had no idea who I was bringing in. And they were like, yeah, oh, okay, Steve. And then I walked arm in arm with Andrea Bocelli, and he started to serenade him. So that's what I did. Now, here's the lesson and the story that you really want to know, because I actually talk about this in my latest book, Go for Stupid. I was stunned that everyone had said yes to me. And I'm not joking, I was sat next to Andrea Bocelli before this all happened in the museum, and I went into a cold sweat and a slight shake because I was in this museum, which I had to myself. It was like a Thomas Crown moment that I had the entire museum. I'm walking around this entire museum with espressos, just looking at everything on my own. And then I go and sit down on this plinth next to Andrea Bocelli at the feet of David. And I was like, hang on a minute. And I just got the acceptance of what's going on. And I shuddered. And Andrea said to me, are you okay? Now, for anyone that doesn't know, Andrea Bocelli's blind, but I was sat next to him and I literally shook that much that he felt it. And he said to me, are you okay? And I said, just strangely, we push for so many things we want. Quite often we don't stop and smell the roses. I just realized where I was, who I'm sat next to, and I was like a child in the Santa's grotto, and it made me shake. And then afterwards, I went down this journey to try and find out how, as you quite eloquently put it, a bricklayer from shitty London is now sitting in the academia with Andrea Bocelli. How the hell did I pull it off? And it was the curator that actually answered it, because I approached him. I really wanted to know. I'm a really aggravated soul. I'm always curious and I'm always aggravated. I want to know why that goes there. How does that work? Why does that button do this? How did I get this? Not, hey, I got it. How did I get it? If I knew how I got it, I could repeat it. It's like winning the lottery and then thinking that person's going to give you financial advice. What do they know? They got lucky. I didn't rely on luck. I wanted to know, was what I did scalable for other people? So on questioning the curator just turned around and he went, you asked. And I said to him, has it ever been done before? Has anyone ever taken over this museum? Has anyone ever thrown a dinner party of 6 people? And he went, no, No, it's never been done. But you did it for me. Yeah. You asked. And then I went on a journey going back to all of the people. And I've worked with Elon Musk. I've worked with Elton John. I've worked with the Vatican. I can name drop until, Christmas next year. And I literally went through all of these people for two reasons. One, to reignite the relationships and to stay in contact with them and go, hey, we haven't spoken for 4 years, but do you remember when we did this? And, oh, do you remember, hey, how's the kids? How's the dog? And reignite the relationships. But at the same time, it was a personal journey to literally ask myself, how is a bricklayer that has trouble, writing a bloody email, flying around the planet, spending clients millions, creating these amazing experiences, and then coaching and teaching and training? How the hell? And all of them said the exact same thing. You dared to ask. There's both stories.
And then I jump in and think about, as you're talking about all of this, I'm thinking about Kenneth in your book, your Go for Stupid, and the whole idea of, don't give them what they ask for, give them what they need and they desire. So talk a little bit about Kenneth, because it's an extreme, right? You've got dinner with David and then you've got a drink.
Yeah, and that's the problem. We're very, very easy to be distracted and discouraged today.
Right.
And there's a lot of people out there going, well, it's okay for him. And I've never really understood that answer. I was kicked out of school at the age of 15. I ride around on motorcycles. I'm 245 pound of ugly biker. Why are you using me as the excuse that it's okay for him? I didn't go to Eton. My dad's not the Pope, but you're very happy to give yourself that excuse. There is no difference between what I did in getting Andrea Bocelli to perform in a closed down museum in Florence and Kenneth, a barman of a hotel in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. Both of them were exactly the same. We heard the request, kind of went down the theme, but more focused on what we could do to grow your experience, grow your emotional trigger. Today, we're in a transactional society. We've got Amazon, No one's got a relationship with Amazon. If you think you have, phone them up tomorrow and go, hey, I'm thinking of changing toilet roll. Which one should I get? No one's going to be there. So that's a transactional world. And we're getting more into, we get upset now if we order something and it's not there the following day, And now we've got things like Instacart and things that you just pull up to the supermarket. You don't even get out of your car. Someone comes to your boot, throws it in the back of the car, and you drive home, So we're in a very transactional society today. But that means that there's a competition for that transaction, and it's a race to the bottom. But if I can instead be better, be different, hey, you can't compete with that. So with me, I gave that client, I gave him what he asked for. He wanted an amazing dining experience in Florence, but he sure shit wasn't expecting to be doing it at the feet of Michelangelo's David. So I went beyond his expectations and gave him something that's going to be the talking spot of his cocktail stories for the rest of his life. And I was in the Virgin Hotel in San Francisco, and this waiter came over to me, and it was lunchtime, and I'd just flown in, so I was a bit tired. And I don't usually drink at lunchtime, but I just fancied a whiskey just to relax a little bit before I went and laid down in my room. So I said to the guy, I need an old fashioned. And the guy was like, okay. Now, I'm a great, I'm trying to think of how to say it politely, but I've been quoted as anal with my standards. I'm very picky, and if you don't live up to my standards, I'm going to let you know. And so this guy turned around to walk off to get me the old fashioned, and I stopped him in his turn, and I said, look, I don't want to come across wrong, which again, looking like me can sometimes be a bit of a problem. So I said, I don't want to come across wrong, but is your barman any good at doing an old fashioned? Now, for any of you out there, doing an old fashioned is only bloody like 3 ingredients and a bit of sugar and an orange peel. It ain't that hard. But I'm stunned how many people can screw it up. The ice, too much syrup, too much sugar, the wrong whiskey. It ain't that hard, but I'm stunned how many people mess this thing up. And I said to him, if you don't feel confident in your tender, don't get me it. But if you do think you can deliver me a good old fashioned, then please proceed with the order. And he went off, and Kenneth came over to me. I didn't know his name at the time. This guy came over to me, and I've got to say it. This skipping caricature, this flamingo, he was like larger than life, even though he was only about 5'2". This skippy guy comes on, he's like, "Hi, how are you?" And bearing in mind, I just got off a plane, I was tired, and I wanted a drink. I did not want a show. And he's like, what do you like? Do you like that? And he's asking me all these questions. And I wasn't really in it, but the guy had stepped away from the bar to rise to the challenge I had given to the waiter, because he had said, "Look, that guy over there, he's saying if you can't make him a decent one, he's going to walk." And Kenneth turned around and he said, "I hear what you want, but I'm going to give you what you need." And I'm like, all right, you've caught it. You've thrown your gloves on the floor, gauntlet accepted. You bred of eyes to the challenge. And he literally skips off back to the bar. Guy was an amazing character, so lively. And he came back with a drink that was, it couldn't be further away from an old fashioned as me and having a full head of hair. But it was stunning. And the funny thing was, later on that afternoon, once I'd relaxed it, I was actually speaking at an event. And I spoke about this guy. I didn't know his name. And I spoke about this guy. And I said, you're going to hear me talk about what I did with Elton John and what I did with Elon Musk and how I did this. But the guy served me a drink that was so intoxicating as an experience, a surprise, a trigger, that I'm now talking to 400 people in this auditorium about over-delivering. The guy did it with a drink. It hasn't got to be with a $2 million museum. He did it with a drink because he paid attention. So I spoke about that to these people. I went back to the hotel. He wasn't on. I spoke to the person and they went, "Oh, you're talking about Kenneth. I actually took a bunch of people to this other bar to track down Kenneth to tell him what he had done. He didn't know who I was. And of course, he was over the moon when I wrote about him in the book. But the point is, it's very easy for you to look at the elephant and go, "Well, you went to space. Oh, yeah, you drive around. Oh, it's easy for you." The guy delivered an experience and an emotion that, 5 years later, I'm talking to you on a podcast about a drink that I purchased.
That's amazing. What a great story. Hey, listen, Steve, we got to pay the bills really quickly, and we're going to come back with you. Let's grab a quick drink of water. We're going to take that short break to hear from today's Spotlight sponsor. When we come back with our guest, Steve Sims, for our Hot or Not section of the show, believe it or not, I'm going to give you what you need, not what you want, because I'm going to make a slight change. You're going to find out when Steve does as well. Don't walk away. We'll be right back with more of the Shrimp Tank. Hey, do you know where great people go to meet great companies? I do. It's West Sound Workforce. For 25 years, West Sound Workforce has been putting people to work, matching their skills and interests with positions employers are looking to fill right here in our own communities. Specializing in temp to hire, direct hire placement services, West Sound Workforce is there to help job seekers looking to find their next position or their next career step, no cost. Companies partner with West Sound Workforce to augment their recruitment strategies, whether to cover the shift of a vacation employee of their own, having extra hands to make a special project happen, or searching for their next new team member. Visit our website at westsoundworkforce.com or check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Shrimp Tank, where we interview the best and the brightest CEOs and business thought leaders in the greater Puget Sound area and beyond. And seriously, we're talking beyond today. I'm Monica Blackwood, and today our guest is Steve Sims for our next segment, Hot or Not.
And Monica, I am calling an audible on Hot or Not because I have a question that I really, really want to ask Steve, and I don't know how to turn it into a Hot or Not, so I'm just gonna blow that off. Because listen, Steve, I heard you on an interview that you had done for another podcast say something that caught my attention when you were telling your first story about the statue of David. And it goes something like this. I'd like you to talk about it. You talked about boldly going after goals that you have no idea how you're going to accomplish them, but you still do it anyway. Which I think my wife thinks have been doing for our entire life together, which is now nearing 40 years. How are you going to do that? I don't know. I just know somehow or other. So maybe this will help me tell her the next time I have one of these, so she'll not think I'm too crazy. But talk about that whole concept of boldly going after goals, the stupid ones, where you have maybe no idea how you're going to accomplish it, but you still do it.
If you have an idea how you're going to accomplish it, then the goal's not the right goal. You've got to be that 5-year-old and you've got to dream. You've got to play. You've got to imagine. Elon Musk turned around and said NASA's been trying to go to space for like 40 years. You know, there's got to be a better way to do it. I want to go to space. And a lot of people at the time were saying, how are you going to do that? And he went, I don't know. But if I know where I'm going to end up, all I then got to do is walk back to where I am now. And that's the thing. If you know you want a house in the country on that particular piece of land and you want it to be a 2-story house, great. There's the destination. Now you've just got to backtrack. What do I need? I need to know how to construct a house. I need to know how to get planning permission. Knowing the routine and the route is not the issue. Most people today, they don't have a goal. And when I say a goal, I'm on about a firm goalpost. If you go, oh, I want to be a millionaire. Well, if you're in Manhattan, you're still broke. If you're in Idaho, hey, maybe you'll be all right. But you've got to be a lot more accurate with your goalpost. Otherwise, you stand the risk of actually getting close to it, and it's the wrong goal. And I've always noticed that people, as we've become less and less dream-driven, let's be serious, and I'll play this game with you. Anyone listening to this, 9 times out of 10, your biggest problem is your fish tank, the people that you are around. And how many times do you sit at a coffee shop or you're at a bar and someone says, hey, Johnny, you know, how's business? And you turn around, hey, business is great, you know, but I want to scale this. And then once that's scaled, I'm going to sell that part off and I'll probably write a book on that bit. And then I'm going to divide this into 3 separate chapters. And then and you go off with your vision. And all of a sudden you look around you to realize that everyone's looking at you like a deer in headlights. And they're like, what's happened to Johnny? He's gone crazy. And Johnny's there and he sees this and he's faced with this option. 1, he goes, no, I'm going to do this. Well, that's very risky today because people don't like to stand out, do they? They don't like to push themselves. They don't like, look at Elon Musk. You know, how much hate does the guy get on an hourly basis? He doesn't listen, doesn't tune into it. But we do, because our buddies at that table are going, you're crazy. So what do? We go, oh, God, I don't know what was. Someone must have slipped something in my coffee. Sorry, boys, I'm back. I'm going to settle. And that's the environment we're in today. But if you look at anyone that's done anything fantastic, Bezos, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, Mother Teresa, if you look at anyone that's done anything fantastic, they did it by daring to go for the stars. And anyone hating on the sidelines, well, they're the poor people. And before you all start throwing hate at me, 1, I don't care if you do, but the people throwing the hate, they're poor financially, mindset, opportunity. They've just got a poor position in their head. But those other people that dare to dream, they see things. And then when they start pushing out, they usually push a lot of people away and suddenly find that they gravitate towards people that can help them get to that goal. You see, you're sat there going, well, I made $100,000 this year. Next year, I'm going to push the boat out. I'm going to go for 120 or 150. I say bullshit. I say go for 300 and fail and make 200. That's how you want to play the game. Push beyond what you are envisaging. And if those around you, and you can test yourself, if you tell your people your goals and they're not laughing at you, then your goals aren't big enough.
So queuing in on that laughter piece, because I did want to talk to you about this. So laughter for me is huge because I had a tragedy in my life about 18 years ago. And 3 months after that, a dear friend of mine actually took me to a laughter seminar, of all things, a laughter seminar. And it was hugely magnificent in my recovery of that tragedy, right? And I look back on it fondly. So laughter is huge. But you talk about laughter in two ways, oftentimes, in the things that I've heard you say and the words that you've written that I've read. One is about in your bouncer days when you made folks say something silly, and then the other was about laughter with respect to a line that Elon Musk mentioned to you, and so talk to us about how those aspects of laughter in both ways impact entrepreneurship and business, and how people go about their lives.
I'll do that, and I'll give you a third one as well.
All right.
So, as a doorman, my job was to basically look big and scary. That was my job, and then, if necessary, slap you. You know, that was my job description. To punch people. I didn't want to do that. Now, if you run up to someone and you go, "Hey, I'm going to punch you," then they get ready, and you're in a battle, you're in a fight, okay? But if you could go up to someone that you were just about to throw out and go, "I like your shoes, they would look great with purple socks," you know, it disengages people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a pattern interrupt. And I would say to people, look, you know, if you want to come into the club tomorrow, just get up the club, name 2 of the Teletubbies or, you know, your favorite Spice Girl, and I'll let you in. Now, here was the funny thing. Anyone that turned up to our clubs and gave us 2 of the Teletubbies or, you know, a famous Spice Girl or something like that, entered into the club grinning.
Mm-hmm.
But we would quite often get people turn up to the party going, "I'm here for the party." And we'd be like, "What's the password?" "Yeah, that'd be stupid. You know, I'm wealthy. You don't know who I am." You know, "Well, I do know you're not coming in, you know, so that helps me." And we would turn them away. And a friend of mine said, "Look, let the other doorman take this and you step in this room and see what you've done." And I noticed that as someone's coming to the front door and they're going, "Scary Spice," and then they got let through the door into the party, they would walk through the door and they'd have a grin on their face because they run a Fortune 500 company, but they just had to name a Spice Girl to get into the party. But they would walk through the door smiling. And smiling, as you know, it's incredibly addictive. It's a high. We want it. And more than anything, other than negativity, which pulls us down, laughter and smiling elevates us. It's rocket fuel. And I was in the club. We never had a single fight. We never had a single problem. We had no ego because of that. Now, I didn't set it up. I wasn't a psychologist. I wasn't working on it, but I just wanted a way of filtering out the people that I didn't want to deal with. And that was how I did it. The byproduct was that everyone was walking into my sandpit smiling. So I was like, whoa, I hadn't thought about that. And then I remember we were doing an event with Elon Musk, and it was in SpaceX before he joined up with NASA. And I had a whole bunch of people that was at this trip with him. And I'd taken over a couple of my clients. And one of my clients, he just wanted to have a conversation with Elon Musk, but Elon Musk doesn't, he doesn't say a lot, and what he does say is great, but he doesn't care what you watched on TV last night. He's not going to talk about what you had for breakfast. He doesn't give a shit. But this guy's like, so Elon, he would like being like the the Energizer bunny. He wouldn't shut up. And he turned around one of the questions, and by now he's trying to needle Elon for a response. And he said, so Elon, how do you feel the fact that NASA has a department that is openly there to diss anything that you say about civilian space travel? And at the time, NASA did every time that Elon would go, oh, we're going to do this, NASA would come out with something like, there's no space in space for amateurs. This sounds great on a child's storyboard, but not in detail. Stick with the professionals, things like that. They were really dissing the guy. And he turned around and he said, do you know they'll always laugh at you just before they applaud? And it shut my client up. And I was like, whoa, that is damn good. And I realized that everyone out there, whether it be Bezos, whether it be Oprah Winfrey, they all got laughed at. You can't do that. Now they rule that space. And those were the two elements that caught me on laughter. The positive aspect as to what it does to your psychology and your mentality, and the acceptance that if you've got people laughing at you, it's because you're a couple of millimeters away from outgrowing them and achieving what you are going for. But I said, I'll give you the third one. And the third one is cancerous. The third one is toxic. We've just gone through COVID. It stopped, and it was kind of funny. It stopped on like a Tuesday at 2:00 in the afternoon. For some reason, it just, right, we're okay now. But we had it for about 2 years. And everyone was like, oh my God, I can't connect now. I can't get out, and I can't go to the gym. And it was the years of excuses. And they were moaning that they couldn't go down to the gym when their fat ass wasn't going to the gym before COVID. People were just lying, and they weren't that good at connecting. Let's be serious. We've started getting really shit at it since Friendster came along. And then MySpace, and then Facebook. There used to be a time, I've still got socks older than Google. There was a time that if we had a baby, or if we had a new car, or if we got a new job, we'd phone your mates, you'd all get together, you'd all drink and smoke, and you'd go, yeah, it's a baby, great. And then you drink. Now, how many times do you see someone in hospital take a picture, shove it up on Facebook, and they're pissed off if it doesn't have 1 million likes by 5 o'clock that day? Who cares? We've come really bad at communicating. And then during COVID, where we were having trouble with it, wasn't closed. Just imagine if Wi-Fi didn't exist for 2 years. That's a different conversation. But we couldn't have a normal interaction, that which he actually started getting not only bad at it, and worse, we also used that period to give birth to 2 more cultures, the gotcha society and the cancel culture. All of a sudden, these poor people are sitting at home going, hang on, let's look through here. Let's find out what you dressed up as at a fancy dress party in 1980. Got it. You dressed up as a penguin. How disrespectful to penguins. Let's cancel your career. Now, we're smiling at that. But how many times did we see it? And how many people got accused of things that they were innocent of? But it was too late. We live in the public court of approval at the moment. If we accuse you of something, well, must be true. Even if it's not, it's too late. Your career's screwed. So we're canceling people that dare to stand out, that dare to stand up, that dare to do things differently. There are so many people out there just looking for that one nugget that they can throw onto some kind of TikTok boomerang and go, look at how insensitive he is, how unwoke he is, and they come after you. And today, there used to be an expression years ago. Do you remember this one? They used to go, what would you do today if you knew you couldn't fail? We've all heard that, haven't we?
Mhm.
But now the expression is, what would you do today if you weren't frightened of anyone laughing at you? And the downside today, with everyone running around with their kind of like portable movie kits on their bloody phones, and taking pictures of you saying something wrong, stumbling over your words, making a mistake, trying to launch a business and it going south, not failing. We'll come to that on a different subject, but not working out as you wanted it to. People laugh at you. And people are scared today of being the butt of the joke. They're scared of being laughed at. But here's the thing. Walt Disney wasn't, Henry Ford wasn't, Edison wasn't, Steve Jobs wasn't, Jeff Bezos wasn't, Oprah Winfrey wasn't, Elon. Everyone that we revere doesn't care, yet we care. So if we want to be them, stop caring and start dreaming.
Dude, I can listen to you all day. We got to do one more bill pay here really quickly, and then we'll be back with you in just a second. We are going to take that short break to hear from our corporate sponsors. When we come back with Steve Sims, there's nothing that Steve Sims is ever going to plead the fifth on, so I'm going to throw out plead the fifth. I got another question for him, but you'll find out when he does. Don't walk away. We'll be right back with more of the Shrimp Tank. And Plead the Fifth is brought to you by our fabulous corporate sponsors, Ideal Life 360, Cornerstone Financial, First Underwriters Insurance, BC Fitness Studio, and Port Ludlow Resort. Please visit our website at shrimptankpodcast.com/Seattle to learn more about these terrific companies. Now back to the show.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Shrimp Tank, where we interview the best and brightest CEOs and business thought leaders in the greater Puget Sound area and beyond, and in this case, from LA. I'm co-host Monica Blackwood, and our guest today is Steve Sims for the next segment, Plead the Fifth.
And Steve, I could have teed this up with Keanu Reeves because I want you to tell this story. You already know where I'm going with it, but for the audience, I think the common denominator about all that you just talked about for the whole podcast is fear. And it's that human fear that keeps us from being great. You gave an interview where you talked about Keanu Reeves at a racetrack at Point Break, pivotal moments, but part of it talked about fear causes hesitation. Would you tell that story?
Yeah. So many people look for that pivotal moment, but it's small hinges that move big doors. So you may get a million pivotal moments. It could be driving down the wrong street and suddenly finding a coffee shop you love, and then you bump into someone. There's these tiny little moments that you've got to be open to receive. And as a young lad, I grew up in East London as a bricklayer, and I never had any money. So I was very, very curious as to why I had no money, why no one around me had any money. I was curious, and I was also very aggravated. Why does this have to be this way? Now, of course, again, being a big, ugly biker in East London, it didn't look too good, me rolling around the streets being aggravated. But I needed to do things, and I needed to find out the answers. I was very, very fortunate to meet Claire, my wife, when we were young. And I remember going to this movie so vividly. Every Friday night we would go to the movies, no matter what it was, because, we didn't live together. It was like kids, chance to get out of your parents' house and, go and date your girlfriend in the backseat of the movie house. And so we would watch anything on a Friday night, absolutely anything. It really didn't bloody matter. And then one Friday, it was this film called Point Break. Now, I'm in London, which, just like Seattle, is known for being a tad wet. And all of a sudden, I'm watching this movie of surfing and people with no jackets on, and T-shirts and girls in bikinis. I'm like, the typical kind of, oh my God, doesn't everyone want to live in California? And I'm watching this movie and I'm enjoying it. And Patrick Swayze's just a cool surfer that everybody on the planet wants to be. And Keanu's in there, Johnny Utah, and, me, poor ass broke biker. And I'm watching this, and it got to a moment in the movie where Johnny Utah, played by Keanu Reeves, is forced to do a bank robbery with Bodhi Cypher, Patrick Swayze, Bodhi. And Johnny Utah's going, oh, I can't get in there. Don't you know what's going on? We can't do this. This is crazy. And Bodie turns around in this truck on the way to the bank. And he said, let me just tell you that fear causes hesitation, and hesitation will cause your worst fears to come true. Now, it was a phenomenal line. It was an amazing line. And have you ever been in an environment or a position in your life? Now, the classic one is when you break up with someone and then every bloody tune on the radio is a breakup song. And you're like, oh, that's me. We saturate and absorb the situation we are in and willing to accept. So, you know, when you're in a sad moment, it's only sad songs you can hear. You know, when you're high on opportunity and laughter, you find everything funny. But as a young, aggravated kid, constantly looking how to find the solution, that moment in the movie, everyone had been asked to leave their seat, escorted out of the movie. Bodie stepped out of the screen and spoke just to me. That moment, fear causes hesitation, and hesitation will cause your worst fears to come true, hit me like a cricket bat in the gonads. I was like, whoa. So much so, and I'm not joking, I missed the rest of the movie. My head was in that space. You know, we get scared and then we stop and then the shit hits the fan. Well, hang on a minute. That's the wrong way, isn't it? And there was all this we went back about 3 days later to watch the movie again, to watch the end of the movie, because I literally didn't consume it, you know? And my wife my girlfriend at the time was like, you know, what's going on? I'm like, hang on, there's something. And I was just in that state. And so I realized that fear, we've all got fear, but fear should be the fuel that propels us. You see, someone said to me once before, the definition of hell is to meet the man or woman you could have been. Well, hang on a minute. If fear stops us trying, but fear is also the definition of hell of meeting what you could have been had you tried, well, then which one do I need to be on? What side of fear do I need to be on? So fear became what propelled me. What I was scared of, I attacked. You know, what I was scared of, I would confront, and I would use it to release me. Okay. And my definition of fear now, quite openly, is to be in the exact same position I am today in 6 months' time. No trying, no growth, no failings, which gave me the education, no bettering of relationships. Fear is me wasting a moment. And then fast forward to last year, I was at a racetrack with a friend of mine, and he'd set up this private racetrack day. And we just sat there around this fire pit the night before. And this guy comes over and he asks if he could have had some of my whiskey. And I poured him a shot of whiskey, and he's got this beard and his hair's all scruffy and he's got this cap on. And he sits down and you know, you get those moments where you go, what, do I know you? You know, that kind of thing. And then he went, what's your name? My name's Steve. And he went, hey, how are you? Keanu. Hang on a minute, Keanu. And we just started chatting. And I said to him that moment was one of the pivotal moments. And we spoke about it. And he openly said it had some of the best lines of any movie in it. But we actually got to converse on the definition of fear and how you should use it to propel you. And the fear you should have is of standing still.
That's amazing. I heard that too, and I was like, yes, that is me. I get scared when things aren't moving, things aren't challenging, things aren't, you know, it's too quiet, right? I want to change it up a little bit and ask one more question. And it's kind of two-part, actually. First of all, I want to know if a speakeasy is possible in Seattle. And I want to know a little bit more about Sim's Distillery. So tell me about those two things.
So, as you've already realized, I get very aggravated very easily. And I had been to a lot of masterminds, and I had been to a lot of these kind of lecture series. and someone would come up in the middle of the room and they would talk and then they would leave. And it was, you were just being talked at. You know, there were no conversation. And the definition of a mastermind is a group getting together with a single purpose, growth. You know, you may be in different industries, but it's that unity, it's that community. And so I thought to myself, you'll go to an event because it's in San Francisco on these days, and Tony Robbins going to be on day one, and, you know, so-and-so is going to be on day two, and then on day three, and you've got this itinerary. And I thought to myself, I wonder if people would be willing to enter a room not knowing anything other than you are going to get disrupted and leave to do things differently. So I wanted to test my credibility. So I literally went online and I went, right, I'm going to meet you in this was 6 years ago. I went, I'll meet you in San Diego on these 2 dates. I didn't know what the location was, so I couldn't give them the location. I said, who wants to come and spend 2 days with me? $2,000. People were like, what am I going to learn? Not telling you. Who's going to be there? Don't know. Where's it going to be? Not telling you, because I didn't know. And we had a bunch of people sign up. And then I used to contact them and I'd be like, okay, you just signed up for an event. You don't know where it is. You don't know who's going to be there. What's your problem? Now, it was me being a little bit sarcastic, you know, meaning, you crazy, you know? But I said to you before, our mind hears what we want it to hear. So when I was saying to people, what's your problem? They were like, good point. I'm having trouble getting my brand from here to here. My business is doing well, but I've got this problem. I'm trying to market to this community. I'm trying to get my copyright. I'm trying to get more stages to speak on. I'm trying to identify a product to sell. And then all I did was I would go into my phone and go, well, I know him. He's the best in that. I know her. She's the best. And I would bring them in. And I would always bring in people that were a little bit funky to your industry. Okay. And so they got to meet some interesting people. And then I would do it again. I'd do it again. The last one we did was in New Orleans. Again, nobody knew where it was other than New Orleans for 2 days. And you can actually find the vast array of details about this at simsspeakeasy.com. There's only one M in Sims. And it sounded like a plug, but you're all going to get there and go, there's no information here other than a purchase button, because we want to find out what's your problem. And then we're going to try and help you get it. And it started off with the #1 funnel expert in America, you know, Julie Chanel. And she actually spoke about how to build up funnels and how to scale your business, how to quantify it, bring one-time offers in, how to monetize your community. So we started off with her. We went through 2 days of experiences, interaction, tests, disruption with loads of other great educators, and then finished off with one of the only voodoo priestesses in America talking about myths and misconceptions. Now, how many of us are in a business where someone gets the wrong end of the stick of what it is you do? And how long do we end up trying to tell them, no, you don't fully understand what I do, and we spend all of our energy only to find out that they're not the right person to be in our tribe? So we're always bringing in kind of wild and wacky people. And to be blunt, a little secret between us, don't tell anyone, I never thought there'd be a second speakeasy. And so far, we're on about 12 over 7 years, 6 or 7 years. So it's crazy. The next one's actually in Los Angeles in March. And again, not telling you where it is, not telling you who's going to turn up, but it's going to disrupt you in the way you do business. So that's how the speakeasy started. And then it kind of rolled a little bit further. Going to an event's great. You know, you come out of it with all these ideas and you're going to do this, you're going to action this is going to happen. And then you get home and this thing called life turns up. And it gets in the way of you doing it. And you look at it 6 months later. Did you implement this? No. Why? My kid's school got in the way. Or Pilates changed the time on me and now I can't do it on there. Shit gets in the way. Mm-hmm. So we came up with the idea, and again, based out of aggravation, because I have no idea how many hundreds of thousands of dollars I have spent joining all these different masterminds. I thought they're missing the point of a mastermind. A mastermind is a collective, and a community is there to support, poke, provoke you into growing. So we actually was looking at it, and people know I like a whiskey. And of course, I've got the event called the Speakeasy. And someone said to me about a distillery that they knew in Kentucky. And I started looking into this distillery, and I looked at the process of how they take raw, coarse ingredients, refine them, and distill them into pure proof. And I thought to myself, isn't that us? We got all these habits, triggers, lack of education. There's nothing worse than being a little bit educated enough to be dangerous, but not knowing how to use it properly. So I thought, what if we all got together and we distilled ourselves to take the best parts of ourselves and make it 110% proof? So the Sims Distillery was born between me and my son, and it's a weekly community. Quite simply, every Tuesday, 9 till 10 Pacific, we jump on a Zoom call, we attack things. I bring in experts, I bring in friends. You tell me you've got a problem with something, I bring in someone that's going to answer it and resolve it. And then twice a year we get together and we actually action stuff and we hold each other accountable. So that's the Sims Distillery, which, you can go to simsdistillery.com, and the Speakeasy, simspeakeasy.com.
I love it. I'm so energized. Steve, thank you so much for being a guest here on the Shrimp Tank. For our listeners who might want to get in touch with you or learn more about your company, how can they get that information? And I know you just gave 2 examples.
Well, let me give you something. Yeah, let me give you something for free. Goforstupid.com. My book, Go for Stupid, came out a year ago, and I didn't want to do the audio in a horrible little audio tank. So I actually filmed it in a studio, and then they just scraped off the audio. It was just a way of me avoiding that horrible little thing. So we ended up with 12 chapters on video of me reading the book. So we decided to give them away for free. So if you head on over to goforstupid.com, you can actually get all 12 chapters of my book free of charge, my lovely little voice reading it to you. So there it is. Or you can go to stevedsims.com. That's my website. Or Steve D. Sims on Twitter, Instagram, whatever. Only 1 M in Sims, and don't forget the D for dashing.
Sounds great. And after you've gone to goforstupid.com, you can check out all of the replays of Shrimp Tank at shrimptankpodcast.com/Seattle, or wherever you get your podcasts, whether it be iHeart, Apple, Spotify, Stitcher. Dan said we're ubiquitous. Please follow us on our show's social media pages on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram.
Well, Steve's Dashing Sims, this was just a blast. Thank you so much. I'm going to tell you really quickly, I had a little pivotal moment during this, and it was your discussion about not wanting to meet the man that I would be in the future. I mean, that whole concept, that's fearful to me. That is no good. So that's something I will remember from here. And one of my big audacious goals is you and I are going to sit down someday and have a whiskey together. We'll make that happen. That would be a lot of fun. Thank you very much. Monica, as always, great to see you. Hopefully I'll see you before, but I probably not now. We're getting close to Christmas. Merry Christmas to you and to Clay and the whole family, and Happy New Year. Everybody, we still have one more show before the new year. That next show will be on Wednesday, December 27th. Our guest will be Ben Hansen from The Profit Doctor. My co-host will be Michelle Baumberger. Please join us. In the meantime, be safe, be well, and be prosperous, because until next week, the shrimp is back in the tank. So long.
I've been feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond.